And now, it's the Finding Your Spine podcast with host Chase Spears.
Welcome back to the Finding Your Spine podcast, where we call you to live and lead boldly in the truth. Now, that is a cry that I say on every episode. But what could brain science have to do with being bold? Fortunately, I've got a guy here in studio with me today who has some thoughts on that. And you've written just a little bit about it, so I think you know just a little bit. And no, I think you know a lot, to be truthful. And I'm really excited to have you here. My professor and my friend, Mike Long, fresh in from Washington, D.C.
Mostly my friend.
Mostly my friend, yes. Although you were really fun as a professor, I will say that.
Thank you.
And thanks for the A, much appreciated.
Thank you. And thank you for doing so well in the auto body shop class. You did very well. I mean, get in there with the Chevys and deal with it. And
swing a hammer, type a note.
That's right. It was a good class. Very good.
That was a lot of fun. And we've stayed in touch over the years, and you've done so much for me, and it's been fun watching you continue progressing as a teacher, as a thought leader, as an author. And it's going to be really cool because we've had so many great conversations over the years about these values that we share in common and how that relates to how we live our lives. And so
we've had great conversations over the last 24 hours about those things.
Golly.
Yes, we didn't have to do this. We could have just recorded our great conversation with you and your wife. It was wonderful.
Wasn't that fun? It's kind of funny. A lot of times when someone comes in and we'll have lunch or dinner ahead of time, and I'll find myself in the middle of the conversation almost wanting to say, no, stop, we're not recording yet. This is all too good. We can't let this go. But yeah, we've had some good talks. We've had some good food too.
Oh my goodness. It's Barbecue City.
A barbecue aficionado yourself. I remember I still to this day have a notepad from my time at Georgetown with your barbecue instructions handwritten in it from class. And so I've got to ask, how's the scene here stack up? Because like you have a very, very attuned palate to barbecue.
It's so solid. We get in. What can we say? I guess we get in a plug for the great Jack Stack barbecue. The smoke is the first thing that hits you. I know some people. Is this going to be a barbecue podcast? Because we could do that. Some people say, "Oh, over smoke." Here's your takeaway. It's impossible to over-smoke, okay? It just can't be done. Jack Stack has it dealt with, and Chops downtown really good, too.
Yeah, no, I love both of those places. And there's so many other great places that I keep being told to go to, but I'm like, I like these two so much. I just know them, and I'm a creature of habit.
Yeah, it's barbecue, man.
It's barbecue. Well, Mike, I want to introduce you a little bit because I know you. And some of my audience, if they've been paying attention, probably know you, but some probably don't. And my question when I was looking over at your biography, because it was like, holy cow, where do I even begin with you, man?
Yeah.
You're this is kind of like when Dr. Ben Carson was here earlier this year, and it's like where do I even begin to introduce this man?
I'm no Ben Carson.
But I'm going to do my best to match your excellence with brevity here. So let's see how I do. Mike Long is an accomplished writer, speechwriter, educator, and award-winning screenwriter and playwright. He is the co-author or ghostwriter behind 2 nonfiction bestsellers, in addition to co-writing The Molecule of More, How a Single Chemical in Your Brain Drives Love, Sex, and Creativity and Will Determine the Fate of the Human Race.
Not an overstatement.
And your more recent work, Taming the Molecule of More, a step-by-step guide to make dopamine work for you. Both excellent books, selling very well, and they've been translated all over the world. How many languages are we talking now?
Well, 25 for the first book, which I co-wrote with the great Dr. Dan Lieberman at George Washington University. And the second one, we've only been out since April, so I don't have good and solid numbers on those, but it's moving briskly. And we've sold 500,000 copies around the world. We're big in China. Go figure.
China?
So, yeah.
Really? Wow. You know, it's funny enough. I had a weird dream about boarding a flight for China the other day, and I have no idea why. But you talk about dreams in Taming the Molecule of More, so I don't know. Maybe we'll do a little analysis on that. Mike's career began as a writer when he was a graduate student in physics at Vanderbilt University, and he also started performing comedy there. You performed one set for us in class one time. I haven't seen any
Lord,
since.
did I do that? That's
did.
not good. Oh, no. Cut that part, Noah.
It was good. But his first job as a writer offstage was as the sole speechwriter to the late, great Senator Fred Thompson. Mike has gone on to write speeches for members of Congress, U.S. cabinet secretaries, governors, diplomats, businessmen, CEOs, and presidential candidates. We met in 2017 when I was a student at Georgetown University. You were there. He is the director of writing for the graduate program and created the writing curriculum for the entire public relations corporate communication program there at Georgetown. He also teaches courses in PR writing, speech writing, business, and persuasive writing. Mike has taught writing and speech writing to audiences around the U.S. and around many parts of the world: London, Lisbon, Panama.
Does this come with an intermission?
No, we're almost there. Saskatchewan and The Hague. He's also the resident writing coach for the Professional Speechwriters Association. I wouldn't have to do all this if you didn't do all that.
You could skip something.
Do you have any idea how much I cut out? Beyond his work in politics, he is also consulted for material in The Onion and Saturday Night Live. Did I ever tell you I've got a bit in Saturday Night Live?
No.
We'll have to come to that in a minute.
Yes, please do.
Because we're almost done with this.
Okay, that's good. That's good. We'll do that in part 2.
In addition to writing on business and public policy, Mike writes fiction, screenplays, many of which are award winners, and is currently working on at least one novel.
Yeah.
More than from what we talked about.
We'll get through the first one.
Actor and author Ben Stein calls him a poet, but I call Mike one of the teachers who's had one of the biggest impacts on my life and a friend, and I'm deeply grateful you're here.
Well, you're very, very generous. It sounds to me like a guy who can't stick to one thing to me, but anyway, we'll go with that.
So the Saturday Night Live thing. Can you talk about?
Yeah, sure. It was a long time ago. It was back when Clinton was in office. I had a friend who was doing a writing tryout there, and he called me. I remember I was standing on the street corner doing something, and he called and he said, "Mike, I'm working on this thing. Do you have any ideas?" We'd come up together in Nashville, where he was an improv guy. He created. You've heard of World's Dumbest Criminals? Mm-hmm. He created that.
Okay.
And so he and I were just talking, and he was excited to be at SNL and doing this writing thing. And he said, "You got any ideas?" And what we ended up working out was contributing jokes to that famous sketch where Monica Lewinsky is at the podium on the phone with Clinton and back and forth, the big opening sketch. So I had a little hand in that, yes.
Oh, man. So in 2000, when was it? 2004. Do you remember when there was this big brouhaha? Secretary of Defense Don Rumsfeld made the statement, in Kuwait, you go to war with the army you have, not the army you want or wish to have at another time. That got turned into a Saturday Night Live skit. And I was one of the public affairs camera operators at that event. So when you see Specialist Thomas Wilson asking him that question, "Hey, sir, why are we having to go to war without the equipment we need?" I was running the camera that picked him up. I was in the room. And I remember in that moment thinking, like, oh, it's about to get real up in here. And, of course, for whatever one does or does not think about Don Rumsfeld, he handled it about as masterfully as anyone could handle something like that in the moment. And I didn't think it was going to be a big deal because the soldier seemed satisfied. And like later on, like he's all but crowd surfing. Later on, he's down there shaking hands with the troops. Everyone's happy to be with the Secretary of Defense. And he's being very personable with all the soldiers, handing out coins, all the stuff that he does. And we didn't realize it was going to be a big deal till late that night. We got back down to our home base after a full day of work and driving back through a rainstorm in a soft-skinned Humvee getting soaked. And we walk in and every cable news network is on that line of the speech. And we're like, oh, this is going to be big. And so the next weekend, Saturday Night Live ran a skit based on that, and they used some of the footage from my camera. And I was like, I made SNL.
All right.
I made SNL.
Greatness, me and you both.
There we go. That's right.
Seconds of pleasure.
Good old stories on memory lane. But that's not what we're actually here to talk about. We talk about courage and boldness, and you have a lot to say about that, and you write a lot about how brain science works in the decisions that we make. And so I'd never heard of this thing called dopamine till I met you. So let's just start there. What what is dopamine? Why does it matter? Why is it important? And
Sure.
And especially in context of trying to encourage people to be bold, why does it matter?
Dopamine is best understood first as what it is not. Because if you have heard the term dopamine, chances are the way you've heard it is it's the molecule, the brain chemical, we're going to use the word neurotransmitter, which just means the chemical, that makes you happy. And they say, oh, I got a dopamine hit from that fun thing. No, that's not at all what dopamine is. In fact, when my partner and I, for this first book, Molecule More, wrote it, one of the things we set out to do, you have big aspirational goals when you write a book like this. And one was we wanted to do nothing less than change the way the world talks about dopamine and to eliminate this notion that it's a molecule of happiness. It is, in fact, the molecule of more. Turns out the things that make us happy in life are not necessarily absolute things. I want to have this job, or I want to have this much money, or whatever. And there's some satisfaction in that when we have it in the here and now. Makes sense. I'd like to have a donut. I get a donut. Donut makes me happy. But dopamine is about something else. Dopamine makes us want more than what we have right now. And this is nothing less than the key to human progress and human dissatisfaction. Here's what I mean. When I first came to Washington, my goal, I live in Washington, D.C., my goal was to be the speechwriter for, you mentioned, a United States Senator. And that's all I dreamed of for many years. Could I do that? I moved to Washington, got that job. And after I'd had it a little while, I thought, I wonder what else is out there. I thought that being a senator speechwriter was going to be the cap on my life. It wasn't. Then I thought, well, could I be a speechwriter for a president? Could I be a speechwriter for a major CEO? Could I do a dozen other things in that field? And every time I'd achieve the next one, I wanted more. I wanted the next thing up. If you live in an apartment, you want a house. If you live in a house, you probably want a bigger house. You live in a big house, you want 2 houses. If you're Elon Musk, then you want to live on the moon. We always want more. And that is a good thing because it pushes us into the future. We're a little unhappy, a little dissatisfied, and dopamine making us want more. So we try to expand our knowledge, expand the reach we have as a species. But it also makes us unhappy because it expands our knowledge. It makes us unsatisfied. It makes us want more that we know deep down is not going to make us happy because there is no end to the line. That's why dopamine's important. It explains why we have this longing. Every time we think we've reached the thing we want, this chemical in our brain makes us say, I wonder what else is there. And that has a lot of good things, but in modern society especially, has terrible downsides.
I was just thinking as we drove in today, or as I drove in, we were meeting for lunch, and I'm sure you've seen the movie Greatest Showman.
Yeah.
Which I just think is a marvelous work of art. And I've got several of the songs from it on my phone. And today, rather than listening to a podcast, I just wanted to enjoy some music and just kind of tune out a little bit. I didn't want to have my brain overstimulated before I came in studio. And the song Never Enough came on. Mm-hmm. And I kept thinking, is that not like the theme song for dopamine? Never enough, always wanting the next thing. And I frequently struggle with that. Like, I remember when I was in the Army, it was okay, do the best job I can do at this. And yes, I definitely want that next position of more authority and the ability to do more things. And then if I do well at that, I certainly want the next rank. And then in school, the Army had me, I was 7 years consecutive as a graduate student between Georgetown, Command General Staff College, and then going to Kansas State. And I was wrapping up my PhD last year, and I remember thinking as I got to the end of the dissertation, which is, supposed to be this big penultimate experience, and I got to the other side of it, my brain was immediately like, what's next?
What's next?
That's What's next?
That's it. You got it exactly right.
Yeah.
The opening quote in this book, I think the term is an epigraph, actually, right there at the top. Here it is. And it says, it's from George Bernard Shaw, from Man and Superman. And the quote is just this: there are 2 tragedies in life. One is not to get your heart's desire. The other is to get it. And that's the whole theme of this. And I can tell you, it's just sort of funny aside. I haven't shared this with anybody. The original quote that was going to go there. We couldn't afford. They wanted too much money to quote it. You have to pay for these quotes. And the quote is a Talking Heads lyric from the song Burning Down the House. And when you hear it, you'll go, oh. And the lyric is very simple. Watch out. You might get what you're after. That's the heart of it right there. Watch out. You might get what you're after.
Choose carefully. Yeah, I'm going to read another quote from the book, and this is one that hopefully I don't have to pay you for. But looking at page 233, and you say, this is in your next to last paragraph in the middle, we survive and grow and even thrive through each trial, each obstacle, not by focusing on the branch, but returning relentlessly to the root, which is meaning. And that stood out to me so much when you told me to skip to the end of the book, so I skipped to the end of the book. And I've had that come out in so many conversations that I've had here of people saying, it took me going through this trial, and I don't think any of us in our right mind deliberately choose, I want someone to try to slam me today. But we make decisions about, are we going to allow that to happen because we're going to hold to what we know to be firm, to what we know to be true. And those things grow you. And in context of theology, we go back to sanctification. The Lord sharpens and he sanctifies you, and that often requires trial and it's hardships that produce growth. And so I love seeing you here talking about how like these trials cause us not only to survive, but to grow as long as we stay connected to the root, the meaning of what it's all about. And I find that to be so true. That I know that was true in my decisions of when I said, here where I will draw my red lines. And I've seen that with a lot of other people. And I'm kind of, I'd love to dig into this a little bit more, because I know if these are the words you got out of your brain onto the paper, there's probably more behind it.
Well, that's probably about the 9th draft or so. But yeah, and writers know what I'm talking about. When you talk about meaning, I'm thinking about this in terms of, well, let me just back up and say this. This is a book about philosophy of heart that I snuck by my publisher as a neuroscience book. And the book opens with an explanation of how dopamine works, which is a very brief tour of the first book. And then it goes through a series of modern problems, things like gambling, online gaming, shopping, pornography, lack of creativity, serial dating, topic by topic about how dopamine drives these dissatisfactions and particular things you can do based on the latest journal articles in the field of neuroscience and psychology about how to push back. And if you read the book up to that point, you read through that, you say, oh, well, I'm having trouble. I compulsively shop, or I'm never satisfied with it. As soon as I get a date and we go out, and then I want to see somebody else. I've already gotten that. I'm done. There are ways to deal with it, but not in the long run. You've just found a way to jump over little problems. If you're going to solve the dopamine problem of perpetual dissatisfaction, the answer is to find why you're living in the first place. What is it that happens in the moment? And how can I appreciate what happens in the moment? How can I guide and choose what happens in the moment in order to take such meaning from it that I don't feel dissatisfied 10 minutes after it's over? So that's what I'm getting at. We talk about, in fact, when we talk about dopamine, the best way to understand why it matters is the brain, for all its complexity, actually divides the world into two views. There's the here and now, and there's everything that comes after, and the past is not of our interest. So we have one part of the brain, in fact, it's the majority of the brain, that deals with how we experience the here and now. what things taste like, what it feels like emotionally. Look in your eyes right now, how it feels, sees, hears, tastes, touches, to do everything. And that's a moment. It's an experience, what we call a qualia, and then it's gone. But one part of the brain, one part only, in fact, one neurotransmitter only, deals with that future, and that's dopamine. Makes us look forward, and it's always relentlessly pulling us toward the future, toward the things that we might need, things that might make us happy, And that's the split right there, is if we can make ourselves happy in the moment, that's fine, but how do we prevent that unhappiness or that dissatisfaction afterwards? And by taming the molecule of more, we can be happy in the moment toward being satisfied in the long term. And that means meaning. In practice, what that means is the things we do in the moment need to satisfy three qualities. There are lots of philosophers, theologians who've talked about this. I think of Viktor Frankl. I'm sure a lot of your listeners are familiar with Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. We can go back to Aristotle and we can see this. In order to have meaning in the long run, in the here and now, the things we do have to satisfy 3 points. We have to be good at them. We have to enjoy doing them, which aren't necessarily the same thing. We were talking, I'm a terrible guitar player, but I like to play guitar. You don't want to pay me to play guitar, but so it's 1 out of 2 ain't bad. You know what I'm saying? So if you like it, if you're good at it, and it advances some virtue that you find worthy. And by virtue, I don't mean feed the starving children. It could be that, but it could be something as simple as grace. It could be something as simple as kindness, the pursuit of knowledge, the pursuit of justice. You don't have to set the world on fire to find meaning, but to make meaning felt in your heart in the moment. The things you do in the moment, the things that momentarily satisfy dopamine, have to satisfy in the long run by finding those 3 things. That's Aristotle, that's Frankl, that's a lot of people.
You know, what's going through my mind as you're saying that is, someone comes up to a fork in the road, a hard decision, and you've come across them, I've come across them, our listeners have come across them, everyone who's been on the show has come
I've never had to make a hard decision.
Ever, right? That's... Get off my set. You're not qualified. No.
Mike, take it seriously. So.
Yeah. I think everyone, at the end of the day, we all seek comfort. I like to be comfortable. You like to be comfortable. My wife certainly likes to be comfortable. And I wonder where this plays in with, you come to the fork in the road. Like for me, there were moral decisions in the Army. Came to the fork in the road. What do my supervisors demand me to do versus what my heart, my spirit, my integrity know to be the right thing to do? And that was not just a recent thing of the last 5 years. As a public affairs guy, that came early on, but it did get more intense as the years went on. And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on those who want to be comfortable right immediately in the here and now, if that in any way is related to a more of a willingness to compromise, if you will, to maintain that comfort in the here and now, versus those who say that I would like to be comfortable in the here and now, but my honor, my integrity, my soul, my connection to truth demand that I be willing to be uncomfortable now so I can be comfortable later on, at least in knowing that I held to what is true.
I know where you're going, but I'm going to come back and pick at the premise. Is you said, well, a lot of us, most of us, all of us want to be happy. That we just want to be comfortable. And comfortable, let us agree that the definition will be free from provocation, free from stress. And I reject that. We don't just want to be that. And the example I'll cite is the story Bartleby the Scrivener. Are you familiar with Bartleby?
I'm not, no.
Bartleby the Scrivener. And the famous line is, I prefer not. I prefer not to. And the whole story, it's completely allegorical, obviously, but he's asked to do something, and he says, I prefer not to. And eventually he loses the things around him, and they say, well, would you do this? He says, I prefer not to. And in the end, he's sleeping on the street. He says, would you like to go inside? Would you like to get up off the street and come into this bed I have? I prefer not to. We do want some strain in our life. The question is only how much strain are we willing to work to overcome? Now, that may be mistaken as I'm happy being happy, but really it is how much overcoming am I willing to do? You know, a very interesting question in philosophy is, what would the economy of heaven be like? Because if heaven fulfills all our needs, all we're going to be is happy. Is that enough? You know, I come back to Talking Heads all of a sudden. There's a lyric in a Talking Heads song and says that heaven is a place where nothing ever happens. Well, setting aside the theology of that, the notion that there is no conflict, there is nothing to gain in heaven, is an interesting and terrifying idea. I don't know what heaven's like. Hope to find out. That said, I reject the notion that we primarily want to be happy. We do want to economize our efforts, but we also want something to do. What do people complain? We talked about this last night. What do people complain about in retirement? I don't have anything to do. I don't have anything to do. We want a struggle, and dopamine provides that to a constructive end. And this is a great place to jump on this point, because a thought ought to be occurring to you if you're sticking to this, if this is a serious interest to you, is why in the world would God or evolution or some combination of those things give us a chemical that makes us dissatisfied? I mean, that doesn't sound right at all. Here's the unhappy thing. Go for that. This is going to make you want more. Well, it turns out this is a survival thing. Early man had to have a constant early warning system going all the time. Boom, 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 marching to caveman job. Here you go. Oh, there's a noise back there. I better check it out. It could be a tiger who will eat me. Or there's a berry I haven't seen before. Ooh, that could be dinner. And since I got to eat today what I killed this morning, better check that out. Dopamine is this early warning system that shows us, that alerts us, that gives us a feeling of go investigate that stuff. Whenever we see something that is unfamiliar, that we think might be useful. That's why we don't notice the curtains around us right here, or the color of your shirt, or the color of my jacket. It doesn't matter. It's not salient to our experience. We ignore that stuff all the time. But as an early human, there were all kinds of things. We needed that, or we were going to get eaten by tigers. Now, that works really well thousands of years ago, millions of years ago. But today, if you see a berry, well, it's not in the grocery store. I don't need it. If you hear a rustling behind the mailbox, it's probably not a tiger, okay? And yet dopamine is like, what's that? We better go do something about it. So this spectacularly useful, what do you call it? Do? Is that what it's called in the military? The line, the do line, this spectacularly powerful alert system that dopamine gives us was great when we were living in caves. In the 21st century, when we live in houses with air conditioning and heating, and the food is down the street at the grocery store, we don't need the instant alert. And yet it still drives us. So how does it present itself? Well, it presents itself with this phone. Why do you think you scroll through this phone? It's not because, gee, that'll be fun. It's because the last time I scrolled down social media, one time before, I saw something interesting and fun. It was better than I expected. And if I keep doing it, if I keep looking like that, maybe I'll see something else. That's dopamine. Ooh, this is another interesting thing. Well, it's not here yet, but it could be. That's that dopamine pull. That's not happiness. That's anticipation. That's what that is. Dopamine's pulling us. And you know what I've just described when I talk about scrolling through a phone? So I've described a slot machine. Why do you sit there and pull that? Because once I pulled it and I won money, or I saw him win money, or I saw her win money, I'll keep pulling it. And that's that dopamine pull that says if you keep doing this, something good might happen. And that is deadly in a society where technology has, and I hate this word, but I have to use it, weaponized the tools to get your attention and keep you there. And all of a sudden you're spending the days, significant parts of the days, not doing anything productive, certainly not working toward your meaning, but instead going, oh, something cool might be down here. I better do it. All of a sudden it's 3 a.m. You're still chasing rabbits on Facebook or Instagram or Lemonade or whatever you're doing.
There was this one time you mentioned the rustling behind the mailbox. I'm sitting in my boss's backyard in Alaska.
Ah, well, there's always an exception, isn't there?
Yeah, and we're sitting in his backyard drinking a beer, talking, and his backyard goes right up to a literal cliff that goes down into a river valley. And he's got this, very nice picket fence that, goes straight off into woodland, and you don't know that you're going straight off a cliff unless you go walk over it. Yeah, unless you go walk and look down and say, oh, look, I'm glad there's a fence here.
Yeah.
Lest I walk off into that. But we're sitting back there talking one day, and all of a sudden we hear a rustling, and we're like, what's that? And sure enough, a black bear had come up the ravine and was curious about his yard, and we both got up to go see where's all this noise coming from by the fence, and we immediately see, oh, there's a bear there. Fortunately for us, the bear was equally surprised to see us there and took off right back down the ravine. But it came to mind about how when we were there in Alaska, there was this realization that I'm in a place where I'm not at the top of the food chain anymore. And because of that, I acted differently. And you mentioned how we had to live differently before we had, the creature comforts of today.
We've conquered nature.
We have, yeah. And it was very, very real to me in that point in time. We lived there 6 years. I didn't break a wood line alone. I had a rule. I do not go into a wood line by myself, period, end of sentence. The only time I would ever be by myself outdoors would be if I was biking, and it was because there was this bike trail that was right next to a major highway, and so I knew if something happens, there's going to be witnesses who are going to call in 911. If the bear drags me off into the woods, someone's going to see it, and someone's going to come looking for me.
And you carried your ID just in case.
Exactly, right? And bears didn't like coming by highways anyway, so I was pretty safe. But I made a rule. I never went into a wood line alone. I never hiked without bear spray. Every time I did go into wood lines, even with people, I still made lots of noise very deliberately. Sure. And it was a very different way of thinking than I have to think down here on the lower 48.
Oh, absolutely. The thing that dopamine did in its first presentation is something we don't need nearly as much. Obviously, we still need it. You don't want to walk out into traffic, but it's not the primary focus of life, which it was at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And you like to think about the body evolving and changing, so that things that are useful become more pronounced, and things that are less useful going away. A lot of things don't go away. What's that thing people appendix? Appendix doesn't seem to do much. It's still around, but at one time it must have done something. And dopamine is the same thing. It's not that we don't want it. We do want it. We just would like it to be modified for the environment. And it is, behavior follows biology, and the biology hasn't changed. So here we are.
Do you think that in any way relates to how people view themselves in terms of what they want to be, who they want to be?
Boy, that's a big question, Chase. Of course, the image you have of yourself, the story you cling to about yourself, is going to influence the choices you make, for better and for worse. So I'm a good person, therefore I won't do this, or I will do this. I mean, in the general case. Now, how does dopamine fit into that? Well, dopamine can lead us to all sorts of justifications that may conflict with this meaning that we have, this, as you call it, the courage we have to live a certain way. Whether that's by a Christian standard or by some other standard, whatever standard you've set, the system works the same way. So if you know what you want to be, and that's what Aristotle referred to as the virtues, in a good sense, in a positive, constructive sense. If you know what that thing is going to be, then it's going to affect how you behave in the moment. I want to be whatever. Let's say I want to show grace. So that means I'm going to pop off at somebody in traffic, no matter why they did. I'm not going to pop off at them. That's a very simple example, but that's it. And that gives us just the spark of motivation to behave differently in the moment. which advances the grace. It also, for all people, advances our own self-image because we're living up to what we wanted to be. And it gives meaning to the moment. If you can go like this, do you know what I'm saying? If you go to the slot machine, you sit there and pull the slot machine, there's fun a little bit pulling the machine lever. That's not very much fun, but there's a little fun, I suppose, watching the colored lights and all that. But then the anticipation is what really keeps you there. You keep doing it, but does it add up to anything? See, it's something that's fun. It's something you're good at, but does it advance a virtue? You see, that three-legged stool isn't there. Pulling that pulling that doesn't advance the virtue that you have in mind. And so now you have this very simple formula. You can ask yourself in the moment, is this a worthwhile use of my time? And if everything you do, or the majority of things you do, are all three of those things, then the meaning takes care of itself, which means you have to decide what the meaning is going to be in the first place. Does that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it all comes down at the end of the day to meaning. Like, right. I think we all want meaning and for me, my meaning is found in Christian faith.
Right. But the thing is, and this is where the idea of faith without works is dead. You can have that idealized aspirational meaning all day long, but if you don't do anything to advance it, then not only have you not advanced the value of the virtue in the world, you've left yourself bereft in the moment. Oh yeah, I was good at it and I liked it, but it wasn't advancing anything. Well, that's the slot machine. It was good at it and I liked it and it didn't advance anything. That's sitting there playing the guitar. Or I was good at it and I liked it, and it's a plumber. I'm a good plumber, he said. I'm good at it. I like doing it, and I'm helping somebody. And you say, well, that's not a virtue. Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yes, it is. You're doing the thing that helps other people that they need. You don't have to be a social justice warrior. Just take care of your family. Just take care of your community. Take care of the people around you. If everybody did that, we wouldn't need the long distance effort. And yet that's another thing dopamine pulls us toward is, can we control something at a distance? Is there something we can do? Why do we like it at a distance? Because it's more amorphous, less defined, and we can imagine even greater the influence we will have precisely because we are unaware of the degree of influence we really can have. The farther away it is, the more attractive it is.
That being why some people are so drawn to, I want to give money to this cause that's on another continent versus I want to help my neighbor.
No, that's because it's a lot easier to, well, yeah, I guess if you want to put it that way, yeah. It's like I can, and not to question anybody's nobility. I'm sure everybody's given more than I am. Yeah. But the thing is it's, there's a wonderful, wonderful tragic saying, and I wish I could cite the man who said it, but he said every time, it's a poverty that every time somebody takes a check for this is it. Said, when your neighbor's husband dies, you got to take a casserole over there. You can't just say, well, there's a system in place that will take care of her. That's not compassion. It's not even love. And that's a hard thing to say. But compassion disconnected from its source is something stark. Compassion separated from its source is something stark. I can say, my neighbor's in need, I'm going to help her. Or you can say, my neighbor's in need, the system I contribute to, and will take care of her. That's not the point.
Just having to sit in that for a second.
It's okay. It's a big idea, and not everybody agrees. I'm not here to change anybody's mind on a dime. These are things that came to me while I was writing it, and things that I found. Oh my goodness! Every original thought I had has been had 1,000 times by minds bigger than mine.
Does that not drive you crazy sometimes?
Not at all. It's comfort. It's comfort, Chase. I would be terrified to find out I was the smartest at anything, the top 50% of anything. I don't want to be the guy who knows everything. That's too much responsibility. I want to do what I can do. I want to learn from people who know more than I do, and I want to share what I have. I want to give it away.
I find the more that I read, the less that realize I ever knew all along.
Ooh, Styx quote. I dig it.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's just, I didn't even know it was a quote, but it's so true. I found it because there's so many times over the course of my life and the course of time in the military as a leader, confronting this principle or this reality and seeing it through the lens of that moment, that here and now, and translating it in the context of where I'm at and who I'm with. And okay, the marble of knowledge, kind of like in Inside Out, the movie. Do you have any thought? Rabbit Trail. You watched Inside Out?
I've never seen it.
Okay, then never mind. So it wouldn't matter.
Okay, but I got a movie for you here.
Okay.
I got one for you. You've seen Pulp Fiction, I'll bet.
You know what? I need to see Pulp Fiction.
Okay.
I know so many people who talk about it, but I've not seen it myself yet.
All right. Let me say the thing. This is what you're going to get emails about complaining. What did he say? Many of the pictures of Quentin Tarantino are inherently hopeful and Christian. Okay, I'm not talking about the behavior of the characters. I'm talking about the lessons they impart. And at the end of Pulp Fiction, this doesn't ruin it if you haven't seen it, by the way. It's totally out of order. A guy's sitting at a table in a restaurant, and he's holding a gun on another man who tried to rob him. And he said, excuse me, he said, I used to think, and I'll get this wrong, but you'll understand the gist. He said, I used to think that that this gun was the shepherd, and you were the tyranny of evil men, talking to the guy. He said, but that's not true. He said, the truth is, I'm the tyranny of evil men, but I'm trying real hard to be the shepherd. And the whole thing is this transformation of this one man who said, I have to do better than this. And he does evil things. But he gets to the end, I'm trying real hard to be the shepherd. He knows he is, as a human being, as Jordan Peterson would say, I'm a bad man. But I can't be good unless I am a bad man, because then there's nothing to control. A good man, inherently good, is not good. He's a cipher. He's a robot. But a bad man, which is how we're created, as fallen. The only way to be good is to realize the extent of how bad you can be and then to control it. That's what goodness is.
If you're not careful, you're going to become a Calvinist.
I'm a Christian. I reject all labels except that one. And I'm not a very good Christian. I always hasten to add that I am the worst at it. But I got the part that counts.
The part that counts. Let me ask you, when we were talking a few weeks ago, you said something and it was profound to me, so I wrote it down because I was like, I want to quote this.
I said something profound.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
I was not high at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Nor any other time that I can recall. Although when they had me take the anti-malarials when I was in Afghanistan, some of the dreams I had, I woke up from, I was like, this must be close to what it feels like. I was so happy to come home and get off that stuff and get that out of my system.
Yes.
Have you ever seen Across the Universe?
Oh, that's the movie about the John Lennon thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen that.
Yeah. Someone recommended it to me years and years and years ago, and I trusted this person's recommendation, and it was a mistake. And I watched it, and then when I was deployed to Afghanistan and the anti-malarials, they made me dream in Technicolor, and I woke up like, oh yeah, that's all right. That's the movie. That's the movie. The movie probably would have made more sense if I were on the anti-malarials at the time. Anyways. You said something that was profound, and I took a note because I was like, I want to ask you this when we're in studio. You said, it takes courage to confront the reality of who we are compared to who we want to be.
Yeah, I'll stand by that.
Yeah. Can you unpack that a little bit more? Because I think
Sure.
I think that links straight back to what you're just saying about the Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. Well, the only way we improve ourselves, I think, and this is far afield from directly being about dopamine, we can certainly find a way to tie back, but we cannot purposefully overcome a challenge unless we're aware the challenge exists. We cannot purposefully overcome a challenge. Purposefully. We can accidentally, but we cannot purposefully overcome a challenge, which is what we're looking for, unless we know that challenge exists. And in physics and mathematics, we call that a delta, the difference between where one thing is and where it is at another point. There's a change. So it's almost prima facie the way it is. You've stated it. If you want to be a different person, you have to recognize you are not that person right now. There's no way to become that other person until you see the delta between where you stand and where you are. If I want to work out, I know. Or if I want to be strong, I know right now I'm 80, 100 pounds overweight, and I have the muscles of a 4-year-old girl. So, but the guy I'd like to have would like to have the muscles of a 40-year-old girl. I would settle for that and would weigh 100 pounds less. So in just a physical measurement, absolutely, there's a difference. In terms of a moral or a character measurement, sure. And you cannot be that person until you know you're not that person. I didn't say you have to know where the end point is. I said you have to know you're not it. You're just not it yet.
Mm-hmm. You've worked a lot in D.C. You've worked the Hill.
Yeah.
You've worked around a lot of very powerful people.
They've tolerated me. Yeah.
There's this old movie, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Sure.
This idealistic vision we have of the servant, the humble servant going and truly being a man of the people. And we look at it then as very romanticized, and we also say as probably unrealistic. And everyone loves to diss on politicians, and most of them have rightfully earned it. But I also hold hope out that there's still some really good people who endeavor and actually make it up, even if as staffers along the way. How do you, once you get out there, how do you hold on to your conscience? And how can some of these disciplines come into play to hold on to who you are and what you know to be true in a system that can so easily tempt you to go another way?
Well, let me do something that I don't like to do. And this I would like to change some minds on. I'm exceptionally cynical about not just politicians, but about the concept of government. And I've worked in government, worked in campaigns, done all this stuff. Now, having granted that, they're not the evil beings you imagine. Some of them are, and some of them are wonderful. But the reason we have such antipathy toward them is because the very best ones understand they're there to compromise. They're there to compromise. And whenever somebody compromises on a thing you believe in, they are dead to you. And yet the whole system is built on that. Go read Lincoln's inaugural address. It's carved in the wall there at the Lincoln Memorial. You know what he said? He said, if I could avoid war, I would totally abandon the cause of keeping the slaves as citizens of the United States. He wasn't, and he did a lot of things like that. I'm not bad-mouthing Lincoln. I'm saying he compromised and said, I know what I want to get. To get there, I'm going to have to compromise along the way. And yet we don't talk about Lincoln, that old so-and-so, that bad guy. Well, some people do. But in the kind of government we have, compromise is inherent in it. And we can either say it's part of the path along the way, or we can say you're dead to me because you're a squish. I don't like having to compromise, but it's inherent in the system. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of issues that I feel very strongly about. I don't want to dig into that too much, but I understand that to live with people with whom I disagree, I'm going to have to compromise. And let's just say compromise my principles. I'm not talking about killing somebody, but I'm saying I understand your principles are strong, my principles are strong. Perhaps we should give a little bit on them until we can find an accommodation, because we have to live together until that point. And if you come at it from the position of I can never compromise on this, and there are some things we can't compromise on, but we better be pretty damn careful about which ones we choose, because we must coexist. Have we reached a point where we cannot coexist? I'm willing to entertain that discussion. I think a lot of people are happily entertaining that discussion. But if we say it's only my way and I cannot break bread, I mean, look at the people Jesus hung out with. He wasn't like, I'm too good for you, let's beat it. No, he's like, okay, yeah, I don't have to agree with somebody to be their friend. I don't have to. And that's where these family breakups come from, is people who say, I understand we don't agree on A, B, and C, and therefore you're dead to me. I've lost friends in the past several years. I know you've lost friends, family in the past few years, if I may say
I
that.
have.
And I'm not telling anybody to abandon their principles, but I'm saying in order to get along, you have to be able to talk, and you have to realize that they're human too. When I teach persuasion, you may remember this. I say the first thing you have to realize is the other side isn't evil or stupid. Now, even if they are evil and stupid, you got to pretend like they're not, because we got to get along.
I think you also have to, at some level, in any society, there has to be some shared, grounded truth.
Well, yes.
You find some common agreement on.
Yes.
And boy, it frightens me. And I don't use that term lightly. I don't use it flippantly.
I know you don't. I know you. How long have I known you?
A little bit. To look around and see we're at a point in time where we don't even agree on some of the fundamentals. I mean, I wasn't alive then, but I'm read about this and I'm told about from people who are really smart and who were there. The Democrats and Republicans of the 1950s and 60s, they shared a very similar worldview of how they wanted society to end up, but different mechanisms and avenues for getting there. I mean, some differences.
Yeah, I disagree with you.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah,
so let me.
I got one big example for you. It's the anti-communist hearings, HUAC, all that. This was to talk about in the 1940s and 50s. You read a little bit about Woodrow Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
You read a little bit about the communist movement in the United States. It's very much. You think we're divided now? It just was behind the scenes. We were a breath away from having a vice president who was a Soviet sympathizer. And it was a spectacular scene at FDR's last inaugural convention that prevented this. The so-called Red Scare was about, go down this rabbit hole. The so-called Red Scare was like 10 years too late. People who believed in something other than the American experiment in free enterprise were already throughout the system at that point. And it was only after the Red Scare, as the Red Scare approached, it was already pretty much over.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this compromise that I speak of is possible only when people have a certain shared moral sense and ethical sense and political sense. And that's difficult. I mean, in a place like people say, God, am I going to regret this? I hope not. People say, well, socialism works in the Netherlands. It works in Iceland. Yeah, it does. You know why it does? Because everybody there is from Iceland. Everybody there is from Norway or whatever. And you can do a whole lot of stuff if everybody agrees that this is what it is. But we live in this melting pot. And people have a lot of very different ideas about what right and wrong should be and how we should organize communities, families, and societies. If you don't hold those things in common, then you're going to have a real problem trying to share things. And I want to be crystal clear that I'm not saying they're wrong and I'm right. I'm not passing a judgment at all. They may be wrong and I may be right, or it could be the other way around. But if you're going to come and be a part of this experiment, the notion has to be where we began this conversation 5 minutes ago. And that is, there are certain principles to which we subscribe that are not compromisable. And one of those is the freedom of expression and the freedom of association and the commitment to solving problems without violence, without undermining, without doxing, that you're holding hands while you're arguing. And in a diverse society, you have to make sure that the only thing that's not diverse is the commitment to respect, I think.
Well, what makes a people? What makes a nation?
Well, yeah, we had this conversation last night too.
Shared border, shared culture, shared language, basic shared assumptions of morality.
I want the best for the people who hate my politics, who hate me. I still want the best for them. I really, really, I swear to you I do. I want the best for them. How do we get along? I hope we can start by that they believe me, that I don't wish them ill. I want to put my arms around them, give them the best.
Yeah. For me, I've talked about it on a few different episodes, so why not add another one to it? The reaction to Charlie Kirk's death. And that to me was ground shaking, especially as a veteran, because so many of the people who were cheering were veterans. And I thought to myself, and I still think to myself, I'm asking this question. I don't have an answer yet. I'm asking the question. I'm throwing it into the air. I'm wrestling through it myself. How do we live as a society where there's some people who say, oh, if I disagree with you, you deserve to be dead? I know I told you last night, I've for what I do, I've started getting some nasty mail. Someone even sent me an email from Texas saying that they're going to give me the Charlie Kirk treatment. And I remember thinking, where's the shared assumption? Where's the shared commitment to values? Where is it in that? And of course, in that instance, there is none.
Yeah.
There is none. We are different universes entirely. I don't have answers to this. I have questions.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting time to be alive. And I think that some of that,
the saddest thing I've ever heard.
Well, and I
it's
tell
an
you,
interesting time to be alive.
well, I tell you, but that's I don't know. Maybe this goes back to the beginning of our discussion with the molecule of more.
This is awesome. It's usually the author relentlessly trying to draw it back to the book, and this time it's the host always drawing it back to the book. I'm like, let's talk philosophy.
I think that's part of what fuels me. Is I'm so irritated, frankly. With all due respect to my elder listeners, I'm so frustrated with some of the previous generations who I feel like kind of kicked this can down the road. And now it's landed in the time that I'm alive. And I don't want to be... There's this great line from Patton. I'm sure you've seen that movie.
Sure.
And George C. Scott's playing him, and it's a marvelous rendition. If you haven't seen Patton, you totally need to see Patton for any listeners or viewers here. And he says, you don't want to be the guy sitting on the porch with his grandkid on his knee, and his grandkid says, what did you do in the great time of the war? You don't want to be the guy saying, well, I was shoveling what in Louisiana. And that comes to my mind so much, because I don't want my kids and my grandkids and their kids and their grandkids to still be in this fight if I can help it.
Well, the fight ain't going anywhere. It'll just be a new fight. Who was it that said no battle is ever lost because no battle is ever won? I think that what you're getting at, I mean, when you said the Patton quote about, you don't want to be the guy who says, or the woman who says, oh, well, I was the one with the shovel back in the shed, not the one on the front lines. Yeah, you do, actually. I don't want to get killed. I don't want to get killed for something I believe in. If I have to, I will, but I'm not rushing to the front to do it. And I don't think we have to. I think we have to stand up for what we believe and do things that advance the cause. But and I realize war is a different matter, but we're talking about a nation where people have, take someone living at the poverty line in America. And I'm not making light of this. I'm simply stating a fact. Someone who lives just above the poverty line, if you could transport a king from 200 years ago and say, here's where this guy lives, the king would shudder by and large. He'd say, what are these miracles around you? Look at the time we live in, Aside from my big cold marble castle back in 1600s or whatever, 1800s, 1700s, you got me beat on everything. We live like God, standing astride not just the world, but the universe itself. We go to the moon. We've been everywhere. And we're just getting started in the history of conscious human life. It's a little bit here, and here's the rest of history. So much longer. We have it so good. And if we're going to kill each other over something, it better be pretty damn important. And yes, these things are important, but there ought to be other ways. There ought to be other ways. And I am, as you've heard me say, I am at the end of my rope on a lot of things. But I always come back to this notion that dopamine makes us want what we don't have, and it makes it far more alluring. Who's more exciting? Let me be, you can cut this out if it's a little too much, but if you've been dating a girl for 3 years, who's more alluring to most people? Her or the girl at the end of the bar who's winking at you? Dopamine takes the distant unknown and says, could be better. And here we are in a time when we have so much. We are surrounded, folks, I wish we could spin the camera around, by all kinds of equipment that didn't even exist 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I am comfortable here in this air-conditioned room. I'm sitting across from my friend. I flew across the country to see him. You know, Louis C.K. said, people complain about going from New York to L.A. 5 hours. He said, it used to take 30 years, okay? And so here we are, and yet we think, you know, it could be better. Could be better. And that's what dopamine does to us. We can't listen to that crap. That's part of the reason this appeal exists of, I'll bet we can beat them. I bet the problems are bad, but boy, if you put it in perspective, they're not as bad as you think, and there are ways out. And we can't do it alone. It's going to take both sides saying, there are things about you that I cannot stand, and you're wrong, and you're hurting people, but I know deep down you want what's best for them. Let's find a way. I'm not optimistic that'll happen, but I'm a theorist.
I want to go back to another part of your book that I thought really spoke to me deeply, and I want to read it on the bottom of 237 here. Begin by identifying the virtues that matter most to you. You don't have to start from scratch because nothing you'll come up with isn't already found in religion, philosophy, or history. Study them. Find what touches you. Then clearly state, and in simple language, what you choose to do. And then you go on and say, choose carefully, because you're declaring that these priorities are the foundations of a life worth living. Your life.
Yeah, I got nothing to add.
Yeah, it's the virtues. I'm really glad you framed it that way. And again, for me, it goes back to what is truth, and go back to Scripture. Christ is standing there as truth, and Herod is looking at him. What is truth? You know, when it's standing right there in front of him, the virtues. And I think there are a lot of people today who they want to care. And so I'm going to latch onto this because it's a trendy cause. I'm going to latch onto that because it gives me a rush at the moment. Or I'm going to latch onto that because it gives me status. Or whatever reason. There are multiple reasons. But I think until you get anchored in something that's deep, that's true, that's rooted, you're so much more easily pushed around. And that's what I've appreciated. Most of the people I have these discussions with is that they found something they're anchored to.
And that is both the solution and the danger. If you're anchored to something, then that is the informing spirit of every decision you make in a perfect world. But it also can rob you of why we're here, in another sense, in the first place. And that is, we have to enjoy the moment we're in. If you live totally for tomorrow, which is what dopamine says, there's something out there, keep working for it, then what you do in the moment is not going to be a pleasurable thing. And it's not going to give you much satisfaction. You're like, oh, I'm sacrificing today because tomorrow may be something better. And there's a place for sacrifice. Obviously there is. But if that's all you're doing, you're where's the joy in that? It's just constant anticipation, not the value of what you do. But if it's just, oh, well, I'm going to feel crappy today, and maybe someday this will add up to something. I know it will. So I don't think we're put here for that. I think we're put here to balance the joy of being alive with the possibility of something better down the road and working for it in those joyous here and now moments. And that's really the struggle we face in the 21st century with the dopamine problem, is we are constantly presented with things that attract our attention on the promise of happiness tomorrow. And yet the moment is all we're going to experience. We can only experience things in the moment. We can't experience the future. We can't experience the past. Right now, this is it. The words I just said, we can't experience again. So we have to live vigorously in the moment, hopefully at the same time pursuing those things by the actions we do in the moment. You know, the great singer Warren Zevon, if you ever listen to Warren Zevon, he'll turn your world upside down. A very thoughtful singer-songwriter we lost about 20 years ago. And he was dying of cancer. And he said, he was interviewed on Letterman. And Letterman said, it was open. You know, it wasn't mincing words. He said, "You're going to die." He said, "What have you learned?" And Warren thought about it for a minute. And he said this, 3 words: enjoy every sandwich. And it took me a long time to understand what he was getting at. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. When you're in the moment, live that moment. And if the things you've chosen to do in the moment, advance the virtues, advance your relationship with Christ, help other people find Christ, or whatever, if you don't believe in Christ, whatever it is that you're working for, if in the moment you're doing something to advance that and you're really sucking the marrow out of that moment, this is life. There's where the joy begins.
Got to ask you a little bit more of a personal question. It's professional too, though.
I'm 6'2", and
yeah, and a classy man,
Well, it's amazing what you can find at the thrift store these days. You think I'm kidding?
I've got the best ties in my closet came from a Goodwill.
Yes.
Oh
yeah.
Yes.
Everything except my socks and underwear. eBay, thrift store. My wife is the queen of the thrift store. Yes.
Love it. So, you started off studying physics.
Yeah.
What was the path that got you to being curious about brain science and writing on it?
God, we need a lot of time. I'll give you the short version. And this is, boy, yeah, I'm open about this. I was writing stuff when I was a kid. I loved to write, loved humor, loved to write jokes, loved to do magic. I still do magic, still write, tell jokes. But I dealt with when I grew up in the late 60s and the 70s, I was dealing with mental illness. And so I had panic attacks when I was little, and I don't want to denigrate anybody's suffering. It's all real to them. A panic attack for me was a dissociative experience, like people associate with drugs. Very terrifying. When I finally saw a psychiatrist years later, he said, "It's a good thing you didn't tell anybody, because they would have locked you up. They couldn't have helped you in those days." So I needed to grip something. I needed to grab onto something to keep my mind going. And what I thought was the safest thing for me to be is the smartest man in the room. And so I studied physics. That was the hardest thing I could imagine. Physics. I wasn't a very good math or science person, but this would be concrete, something I could hold on to. And that's how I ended up in this realm of physics. Now, what I discovered after studying it was that now that I grew up, had a little bit more control over my mind, I realized it wasn't what I wanted to do. I was good at it, but I wasn't going to be a superstar, but I could do it. And what I really liked was writing and performing, and that's what I knew as a child. So I ended up writing about writing. I wanted to be a speechwriter. Ended up in Washington, D.C. after a decade in Tennessee, working as writing code back in the 80s. And I came to Washington, ended up writing speeches for Fred Thompson on the basis of an essay I wrote for the Nashville Banner, the late lamented Nashville Banner, in 1994, 95, about taking my son to Opryland. And I haven't looked back. So the way I got involved with neuroscience in particular is my friend Dan Lieberman, a psychiatrist at George Washington University. I'm at Georgetown, and we really get along. And one day at lunch, he said we kind of agreed that since we don't care for sports or much else, and we don't like the same kind of music, we needed to do something besides go to lunch and talk about philosophy. And he wanted to write a book, and I was interested in writing a book, and I've been writing some other books for other people at that point. And so he cast about, came up with this idea, and we wrote it together. And that's how we got it.
And you've kept it going.
It's fascinating. It's changed my life in terms of how I conduct my internal life. I got much better, by the way, on my own mental travails, and I'm glad to be good at it. That's why I always try to be open, because there's a lot of people who are hurting and they're embarrassed or scared to say anything about it. You don't have to hurt. Go get some help.
And this is
Text me. I'll help you. I'm not kidding. Send me an email. I help you.
This is bringing back a memory I have of you in class, and I'll never forget it as long as I shall live, because no one else had ever done it before, and no one's ever done it since. I've had a lot of professors. I've done a lot of degrees. You're the only guy. I remember the first night of class, you're going over the syllabus and how the class works and your expectations, all the stuff that we expect. And you get down to the one part, and of course, every school has the little section. It's usually the boilerplate language about, if you're feeling uncomfortable or you need counseling, there's a school counseling office, call this number. And you got to that point, and you just kind of put it down. You said, if you need help, you call me. Don't worry about this stuff. If you need help, you call me. And I don't want to say you teared up, but
I'm sure I
very
did.
Clearly
I'm a big crybaby.
It was very clearly an emotional thing for you, and it came across in a powerful way. And I remember thinking, there's a story there.
Well, it's nothing more than you would do, and nothing more than you've done, I'm sure, in front of your classes. If we're here to help somebody, you need to do something about it. And that is a little thing that I can say, and I've had to act on it sometimes, but I'm not a good man. I'm not a modest man. I'm not a particularly accomplished man in a lot of ways, but I've had some suffering that I don't want other people to go through, and that matters to me. I don't, everything that's come my way, I do not deserve in any way. I'm a kid from a wide spot in the road. The fact I'm sitting here talking to a PhD with his own platform and podcast, and with so many listeners out there, I don't deserve anything. But I got this chance. I'm grateful for it.
Well, I'm grateful for it too, because you changed my life.
I've
told you before.
I apologize.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the Army will never forgive you. Well, you mentioned suffering, and so let me come back to the book one last time as we start to work the plane down towards the runway here on 238. There will be suffering, but what life doesn't come with that. Purpose is not the perfect path, but is the best of the imperfect choices left to imperfect beings. At least we get to rely on the character we've cultivated and the talent we've honed. The better to appreciate the here and now while we're in it. We can take pride in matching our self-reliance with the forever desire to return some kindness for what we've received. You go on and say, that moment you're in, that's all you have. So choose your pursuits well. Choose your pursuits well. Use the time responsibly, I guess. It would be another way that I would probably think about it. And I think that's so key. Life isn't going to be perfect. There will be suffering along the way. Some of it of our own obstinate choices, some of it out of necessity, and some of it because of who we choose to be, whether, and I would hope in most cases, choosing to be better people. But that as much as the moments of suffering have frustrated me, they have not been boring. and I know everything that I am now is because of those times of being pruned and scuffed up and building those calluses and being able to get back up. And I don't think I'd have it any other way.
There's no enlightenment. There's no progress without conflict. That's all there is. If you say, "Oh, I'm the perfect mental model," and then somebody, bumps into you and you launch into a tirade against them, it's because you haven't had to test what it is you think your new self is. We have to face up against hardship. That a knife isn't made sharp by being waved in the air. It has to be against a stone. In the book, I want to stress this. It's a dance between the neuroscience problem. Let me just look here at this. I wish I had a chapter by chapter command of my own material, but if you go here, you can look. This is what it starts off with. Let me tell you specific things you can do right now to deal with problems you are facing. They're not magic, airy stuff. There are things, practical things you can do. Wrestling with romance, finding the right person, managing sexual feelings, how to stay together, productivity and getting ahead, social media, obsessing with the news. I cut myself off for the news for a year and a half, completely. Not just, oh, I'm going to turn the channel. No, I heard no news for the year 2017 through the middle of 2018. I tell about it in here and about how that put in perspective the difference between the here and now and the future. Online pornography, buying stuff, gaming, cultivating creativity. This book gives you practical advice about how to deal with these things today. And they do work. This is not what Mike thinks is a good idea. This is what people who have done the research in the lab say this is what works. Here we are, and out in the practice too, of course. But then we get to the end and I say, all this stuff is only of so much value if you don't have a meaning behind it, because otherwise you're just putting a Band-Aid on something. The deeper problem is a lack of meaning. And if you have meaning, then you have a reason to show your spine, to stiffen your spine, to stand up to the choices, at the choices you have to make, and choose wisely, choose constructively, make in the context of a Christian faith, to make the choice you think God wants you to make, or in the case of some other choice, what is it you think matters morally? What does it matter to you in terms of Aristotle's virtues? So the book is practical on real world things. And you don't have to be a religious person to say, oh, this is useful stuff. But I think that what's true for every human being, regardless of their interest in faith or the faith that they have or don't have, is you got to have something at the center. There's a hole in you. You're going to fill it with something. If you don't fill it yourself, if you don't consciously choose to fill it with something, the world will fill it for you. And it'll primarily be filled with the product of anticipatory dopaminergic, if we're going to be specific about it, dopaminergic urges that are not based on what you are pleased with or value in the long run, but what will give you a hit of pleasure in the moment. And that's a dangerous thing. That's why this first book, The Molecule of More, is a big hit with the addiction community. It explains the science in practical ways. This book says, Taming the Molecule of More, how to put it into practice. Dopamine's the key to a lot. Understanding this has changed my life, changed my career, changed my personal life, changed the way I think about things from moment to moment. Will it have that effect for you? I can't guarantee it, pal. I can just tell you that when you understand that there's a difference between how you think and feel in the moment and how you think and feel in the moment when it's balanced against the relatively dubious promises of tomorrow, you're going to choose different.
Reading your work, it certainly made me much more aware than I ever was before, of being in moments and being like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm seeking a rush. Even down to, why am I still scrolling on X?
Yeah.
I'm never going to find the post that satisfies me. Like, move on, write something, play with my kids, take a walk, go for a run.
There's an idea in, it's interesting, it's an idea that I'm not a theologian. I consider to be a theologian to some extent, and maybe you can tell me, but I know there's an idea in Eastern thought, there's an idea in some of Freud was wrong about so many things, but
he was.
some of the guy who was right was Frankl. Frankl was a smart guy. Frankl and Adler and Freud, and I think Frankl wins the contest there in the Viennese school. But anyway, the idea in Eastern thought and in some of Freud's colleagues' ideas is that once we see the truth, you cannot unsee it. Mm-hmm. And that is the way we strip away the falsehoods and the false pieties that govern our decisions. If you understand, like I'm working with somebody on a book, and he says, once you know, he said, it's not about convincing yourself that there is no Santa Claus or whatever. He said, once you know something is reality, you can't go back to believing it. It's done. You can't say, I think I'll go back. Well, so if you say, I don't believe in Santa Claus, it's not that you don't believe, it's because you've seen that story for you isn't true anymore. That story isn't true. And I think when you talk about the influence of dopamine, once you see that you have been at the mercy of some circuits in your brain that you actually can exercise some control over, you say, this wasn't just I'm not giving in to my deepest passions that matter. I'm just falling for a biological trick in the brain. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. It becomes so much easier to do what people say is so hard, which is, I'm going to make a choice and stick to it. Well, you make a choice not because, I'm going to gut through it. It's because that's not true. The thing I believed about this is going to bring me pleasure at the bottom of the screen, as I say in the book, just below the bottom of the screen. There is no joy guaranteed just below the bottom of the screen. And once you understand that, it takes away a great deal of desire. A great deal of desire.
That's something I need to remind myself of a little more often.
Ah.
Mike, this has been a joy. What else? What did we miss? What else do people need to know?
Gosh, I hope you'll take a look at the book. It's at tamingthemolecule.com. Tamingthemolecule.com. You can read about the book. I hope you'll order it. I hope you'll review it. Tell me that you like it. Tell me that you didn't like it. I love to hear from people. And if you'll leave a review somewhere, that'd be great. Anything you can do to get the book out to more people. Dan and I, we made some money from the book. Sure, you write a book, you hope to make a little money, but that's not. We have other things in our lives. This is the thing that fascinated us, and we thought it would be interesting and helpful to the world. And few things make me happier than when I hear from somebody who said, my favorite quote happened not long after the first book was released in 2018. This book's out April 2025. But the first book, and a woman came up to me at a conference wholly unrelated to what I was speaking. I was keynoting at something. And a woman came up to me and she said, I know you wrote this book. And she said, my brother is an addict, and I didn't understand what he was up against until I read your book, and my family understands now, and I want to thank you. Mm-hmm. Now, you can't say that without being a little braggy, so if you want to call me a braggart, feel free. But I remember of all the compliments or negative things I've heard about the book, that's the one that sticks with me the most, is it helped somebody come down. Help somebody come down, help family understand, help somebody get off what they were addicted to. I mean, what more do you want? That's a hell of a thing.
That's a great thing. I'm glad you're getting those attaboys, man. It's not just from me.
Well, I got a novel I'm cranking on. It explores some of these ideas in a rather dark comic way. So stay tuned for that. We'll see how that comes.
I'm looking forward to reading that one too.
Yeah. Check out the book at tamingthemolecule.com. I'm sure there's a link somewhere on here.
And where do people follow you and learn more?
Oh, gosh. I'm at Walmart usually on Wednesday nights. And so if you go to Taming the Molecule, you'll find everything you need. Don't try to remember a bunch of other stuff. Just go to Taming the Molecule. You can reach me there. If you have a book club, it's something I don't get to talk about a lot. If you're still listening here at the end of this marathon conversation we've had here, I hope we've still got folks. I'm loving it. If you have a book club and you buy a handful of these books, I'll zoom in and we'll do this at your book club. I'm happy to do it. Yeah. I'll come to your book club.
What a deal.
Yeah.
Get to do this all over again.
Yeah. Buy the price of admission is buy some books.
Mike, I'm so glad you came in today. I was excited. I've been really excited about doing this episode with you for the last few weeks. And I'm just excited anytime I get to spend time with you. So, man, this has been fun. I'm really glad you came down. Thank you so much for doing this with me. I appreciate it.
Chase, what you're doing here is important. Herzog's important. And to get to spend time with you has been just a blessing and a joy, man. Ate some barbecue.
Yes, sir.
Told some stories. Your wife is wonderful. Good to see her again. Yeah. Chase and I go way back. It's a lot more personal conversation than y'all think it was.
Yeah,
this is a thing.
This is a thing. There's a lot more we didn't even touch on.
Man. A lot we probably shouldn't even tell.
We'll do it again sometime when the cameras aren't running.
There you go.
But
there you go.
It's been great, and I know it's just one more talk of many more that we'll be having.
You bet. I'll bring a new accent next time.
Sounds good. Well, until that moment, we're coming to you from the Herzog Foundation Studios in Smithville, Missouri. To learn more about the amazing work Herzog Foundation is doing to advance Christian education and equip you to be bold and brave, head on over to herzogfoundation.com. If you'd like to learn more about me and my other work, you can go to chasespears.com. And you've heard his website, but one more time.
Tamingthemolecule.com.
Here on this podcast, we try to bring you stories and philosophies of courage, but it's up to you to put them into practice. It's up to you now to find your spine. So get to it. I'm Chase Spears. Thanks for listening.
Remember to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And we'll see you next time on Finding Your Spine.